Hope is a Discipline, interview by Kim Wilson and Brian Sonnenstein, Beyond Prisons, January 2018. Kim Wilson says, I think someone retweeted something you posted the other day and it just really resonated with me and it's helped me tremendously. It is something you wrote about hope being a discipline. I gotta tell you, it made my day, if not my week, absolutely. Because it is easy to get down on everything that's going on. Mariame Kaba says, sure. Wilson says, it's really easy to kind of look around and be like, oh my god, everything, set it all on fire and let's just be done. She laughs. Especially right now, and I think that plugging in with folks and reading things and listening to things that are affirming and uplifting and do allow you to focus on the hopeful side of things are part of abolition. I'd like you to say something about that, but I have another part to that question, which is about self-care for those of us doing this work. That's something I spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about. Kaba says, I always tell people, for me, hope doesn't preclude feeling sadness or frustration or anger or any other emotion that makes total sense. Hope isn't an emotion, hope's not optimism. I think that for me, understanding that is really helpful in my practice around organizing. I believe that there's always a potential for transformation and for change, and that in any direction, good or bad. And that is in any direction, good or bad. The idea of hope being a discipline is something I heard from a nun many years ago who was talking about it in conjunction with making sure we were of the world and in the world. Living in the afterlife already in the present was kind of a form of escape, but it was really, really important for us to live in the world and be of the world. The hope that she was talking about was this grounded hope that was practiced every day, that people actually practice all the time. I bowed down to that, and I heard many years ago, and I bowed down to that. I heard that many years ago, and then I felt the sense of, oh my God, that speaks to me as a philosophy of living. That hope is a discipline, and that we have to practice it every single day. Because in the world, everything is all bad all the time. Because in the world we live in, it's easy to feel a sense of hopelessness, that everything is all bad all the time, that nothing's going to change ever, that people are evil and bad at the bottom. It feels sometimes that it's being proven in various different ways, so I really get that. I understood why people feel that way, I just choose differently. I choose to think a different way, and I choose to act in a different way. I choose to trust people until they prove themselves untrustworthy. Jim Wallis, who people know as a liberal evangelical, he thinks about faith a lot and talks about faith a lot, he always talks about the fact that hope is really believing in spite of the evidence and watching the evidence change. And that to me makes total sense. I believe ultimately that we're going to win because I believe there are more people who want justice, real justice, than there are who are working against that. And I don't take a short-term view. I take a long-term view, understanding full well that I'm just a tiny little part of a story that already has a huge antecedent and has something that is going to come after that. Antecedent. I'm definitely not going to be even close to around for seeing the end of it. That also puts me in the right frame of mind that my little freaking thing that I'm doing is actually pretty insignificant in world history. But if it's significant to one or two people, I feel good about that. If I'm making my stand in the world and that benefits my particular community of people, the people I designated as my community, and I see them benefiting from my labor, I feel good about that. That actually is enough for me. Maybe I just have a different perspective. I talk to a lot of young organizers. People reach out to me a lot because I've been organizing for a long time. I'm always telling them your timeline is not the timeline on which movements occur. Your timeline is incidental. Your timeline is only for yourself to mark your growth and your living. But that's a fraction of the living that's going to be done by the universe and that has already been done by the universe. When you understand that you're really insignificant in the grand scheme of things, then it's a freedom, in my opinion, to actually be able to work, to do the work that's necessary as you see it, to contribute in the ways you see fit. And self-care is really tricky for me because I don't believe in it, in the self in the way that people determine it here in this capitalist society we live in. I don't believe in self-care. I believe in collective care, collectivizing our care, and thinking more about how we can help each other. How can we collectivize the care of children so that more people can feel like they actually have their kids, but also live in the world and contribute and participate in various different ways? How do we do that? How do we collectivize care so that when we're sick and we're not feeling ourselves, we've got a crew of people who are not just our prayer warriors, but our action warriors who are thinking through with us? Like, I'm not just going to be able to cook this week and you have a bunch of folks here who are I'm just not going to be able to cook this week. And you have a whole bunch of folks there who are putting a list together for you and bringing food every day that week. and you're doing the same for your community too. There you go. I want that as the focus of how I do things, and that really comes from the fact that I grew up the daughter of returned migrants, African returned migrants. I don't see the world the way people do here. I don't agree with it. I think capitalism is actually continuously alienating us from each other, but also even from ourselves. And I just don't subscribe to it. For me, it's too much. Yeah, I'm going to do yoga, and then I'm going to go and do some sit-ups, and maybe I'll go. You don't have to go anywhere to care for yourself. You can just care for yourself and your community in tandem. And that can actually be much more healthy for you, by the way, because all this internalized reflection is not good for people. Yes, you think about yourself, reflect on your practice, okay, but then you need to test it in the world. You've got to be with people. That's important. And I hate people, so I say this as somebody who really actually is antisocial. Both Wilson and Sonnenstein laugh. Kaba says, and I say I hate people, I don't want to socialize in that kind of way, but I do want to be social with other folks as it relates to collectivizing care. And that leads into there are no perfect victims, but I'm going to stop right there.